woke up in my home in Puyallup, Washington. We lived on the rim overlooking the valley, and Mount Rainier was straight across from us. It was a beautiful fall day. I came out of the bedroom and walked into the living room. Norm had left the TV on when he went to his office. It was September 11, 2001. Now we simply say 9/11, and we know what happened. We know where we were, everything about it. I couldn't believe it. At first I thought it was a movie that was something new coming out of Hollywood, with something new when you would see planes fly into buildings. And then I heard voices that I knew very well because I heard them give the news on TV on a regular basis. This was not a movie. This was for real. I sat down and I could not believe what I was seeing. Like all of us, you just wanted to close your eyes and have it go away. And as I sat there, I was also came to mind that on Thursday I was going to speak to a good-sized group of senior citizens. And I had my talk about ready, and it kept going through my mind that, oh my gosh, things have changed. What I said to them has no meaning. What I had planned to say to them has no meaning. I have to really look at this and figure out what they need to hear now, what will make a difference for them now. These are not people who can go down and sign up for the draft. These are not people who can go help carry out the rubbish of all the buildings. These are people who have people they're worrying about already. And I have to find a meaning for their life in this situation. So I went on throughout the day watching and in unbelief. That night I got into a tub and I thought maybe I can get rid of the knots in my stomach if I just sit here for a while and listen to music. The first thing I thought of was that a couple nights before, Norm and I had watched the Band of Brothers. And I thought about my relatives who had been in World War II. I had 3 uncles who served. Tom was a navigator out of England. Irvin was in the South Pacific, hand-to-hand combat type situations. And Helmer was a mechanic on airplanes in North Africa. They all were lucky enough to come home. Although, you know, Irvin came home and he came to visit us, and he stayed for a number of weeks in our little 1-bedroom that had been turned into 2 by putting plywood down the middle of the room. My brother and I had a bunk beds on one side. My parents had their bed on the other, and Irvin slept on the couch. But I remember at 4 and 5 waking up and hearing him yell out in the middle of the night. He still dreamed of coming up to the top of a hill, bayonet to bayonet, eyeball to eyeball with the enemy in a kill him or die situation. He lived, but he didn't live comfortably. In fact, with the malaria he was fighting and the memories, and you know, they didn't talk about it in the same way they might call it shell-shocked or something then, but post-traumatic stress was written all over this. He was dead within a year. Could not live with it. Then the music changed, and I heard Schindler's List. And I thought about the Jewish people and all that they had lived with in World War II. And yet they didn't give up. They didn't disappear. They mourned their dead. They honored their heroes, and they got on with their life. And that's exactly the way the men who came back from World War II were the same way. They didn't talk about it much, but it was here, and they celebrated Decoration Day, and they remembered their buddies, but they didn't do a lot of talking about it. And I thought to myself, these seniors that I'm going to speak to, what do they need to know? They need to know that they are the memory keepers, the storytellers, the preserver of vision for all of us. And if they can sit down and share with their family how we got through the Second World War, how we got through Korea, how we lived with depressions where no one had a job, all of the different things that they had lived through. This, and also reminding them that we love you, we stay together, we hold hands. This is what our family is about. We do what we have to do, and then we keep hanging on and living. So, to me, that was the focus of what I wanted to tell these people. And so I did. And the article that describes that is in the section under articles, and you can go and look at it and see it in all of its wording. But I found that the people responded to the idea that if they could sit down, audio recorder or a video recorder, if they could tell their families that they loved them, if they can tell their families how they got by during hard times, what was the strength that kept them going, that they could be never in the world, never in their lifetimes has their family needed them more than they need them right now. The senior citizens are the lifeline. And so that's what I went and I told them, that people need to know, and children need to know. I have two friends who had wartime experiences. One was in London during the bombing, and when I asked her if it was scary, she said, you know, I don't really remember it that way. She said, I remember going into a bomb shelter and my mother saying a prayer and saying everything was going to be fine. And as long as my mother said that, I didn't worry. And then there was Rain. Rain was from Estonia, and he spent 2 years in a displaced person camp with his mother, his sister, sharing a room with several other families. And yet, what he found was that it wasn't a scary time for him because he had his mother. And as long as his mother was there to say, everything's going to be okay, Rain, Rain came through it fine. So we are the people who pass these memories on. Later, when I had time to think beyond those people, I kept thinking of all the things I had seen, watching the cleanup and watching everything that was going on TV. And so I wrote about it, and what I wrote I called Angel Dust. On the day I saw angel dust swirling all around, along with such evil, there were the heavenly bound. They came to work that day, as they've always come before, not knowing they'd meet at death's dark and open door. Many called their sweethearts to say, I love you, dear. So you see, loving connections were more powerful than fear. Monumental buildings fell like with pulverizing might. Tons of paper flew as glass twinkled in the light. Brave men and women rushed into hell that day, and now forever after, within heaven's gates they'll stay. Evil clouds of darkness chased the living without shame. In the eerie calm that followed, the new angels overcame. Yes, angel dust was sprinkled on that oh so hallowed ground. Love, peace, goodwill to men are now its sacred sound. Haven't been there yet, have you? It's on my bucket list.